The following is from the East-West publication written by Yogananda. He gave it as a talk in Encinitas in May of 1940. Understand that at the time the World War II was in full swing and quite a hard time. Appreciate your forefathers, your grandparents for what they went through. And so this is what Yogananda had to say about the end of the world. He writes, considering present world conditions, you can well appreciate what I have taken for my subject, the end of the world. My talk today will help you understand many things that are yet to come. My only desire is that you find the happiness that I have found. Happiness that has no words that can describe. That happiness remains with me all of the time, whether I am talking or traveling, or even while sleeping. I feel that great joy. And so you will. Just don't wait and meditate. Self-interest, prejudice, hatred, and anger prevent true misunderstanding of events and the mysteries of life. Only by communion with God can we comprehend His divine laws, which are working everywhere. In spite of all the ruthlessness, desecrating ways in which man has wrought destruction in God's creation, still we will find that all evil destroys itself, and that the power of God marches in the face of every condition. The end of the world has various connotations, as I shall show you. First of all, there is a literal meaning. In this sense, the end of the world is two kinds: partial dissolution and complete dissolution. It will be a long, long time before we can expect complete dissolution. Yet, periodically, some fanatical group predicts that the world is coming to an end. A few years ago, we read in the papers about a sect in New York whose leader, misguided by mental phobia or imagination, had frightened many of his followers by such a prediction. Those who seek to hold their followers by instilling fear in them are not true teachers, nor are they true leaders. We would always be able to be guided by wisdom. never by fear. The members of this made ready for the coming Holocaust. They gave their property away and went with the teachers to the mountain top to await the end of the world. Well, they waited and waited several days, and their hunger pains grew increasingly. Still nothing happened, and they finally gave up. Eventually, they had to institute lawsuits in order to get back their property. This is just one incident in which people have been alarmed by predictions of war or some major disaster. More often than not, these prove to be false predictions, but in any case, we need not be frightened. After all, what is life? It is a temporary dream. Death is nothing but a sleep and another dream. When the dream is over and it is gone, viewing it from that consciousness, I am not sorry for those who die on the battlefield. For them, the dream of torture is over. But I grieve for the wounded because pain is a dreadful nightmare. Much of the time my mind is not here. I am roaming the battlefields of Europe. You might think, as I tell you this, or if I were to tell you other unusual experiences, that I am suffering from overwrought imagination. But that is not so. Naturally, it is hard to believe that others can have realizations that we ourselves do not. But if you live for years in the mental world, once God's ascending forth the dreams of creation, if you continuously work with divine powers of the mind, you can see, as I do, that all of the miseries and mysteries of God's creation unfold before you. Good and evil actions of man affect the harmonious balance of the earth. Partial dissolution of the world is brought on by evil activities in general. If we all begin to fight with explosives in this direct action, we can reduce drastically the extent of civilization. And maybe if we work hard enough, we can dissolve this world too. God has given man power of destruction as well as the power of creation. We have made the world beautiful, and we have the power to destroy it. When we desecrate the world, the environment undergoes violent change, and it is called partial dissolution. Some upheavals have occurred many times. One example is Noah's flood. These partial dissolutions are due to the wrong actions and ignorant errors of mankind. And don't think the goings on of this world are going on automatically without God's knowledge. And don't think that man's actions have no effect on the operation of his cosmic laws. Everything that has happened throughout the ages is recorded in the ether. The vibrations of evil that mankind leaves in the ether upset the normal harmonious balance of the earth. When the earth becomes very heavy with disease and evil, these etheric disturbances cause the world to give way to earthquakes, floods, diseases, and other natural disasters. It is the same as when you live wrongfully for a long time. Various inharmonies begin to manifest in your body, as well as certain diseases. Viruses and diseases are not a punishment. It is a poison that you yourself create in the body, and the Lord wants you to get rid of it. But too often, by the time you try to throw it off, the body has become completely deranged and you die. So just like the human body, the earth suffers from inharmonious actions, disease, and viruses. And it is because the combined actions of all the peoples all over the world affect the planet on which we live. There is no question about that. Good and bad karmic conditions created by man determine and influence the climate that may affect the wind and the ocean and even the very structure of the earth, sometimes causing earthquakes. All the hatred and anger and evil we send out into the world and agony and rebellion they cause. These are disturbing and magnetic forces of the earth, like static in the ethers. In the destruction caused by this war, we are seeing partial dissolution of the world, dissolution of lives, money, homes, and in many ways it is worse than Noah's flood. It is a flood of fire and bloodshed. But one thing is encouraging. The good karma of mankind is greater than the evil karma. If this were not so, the earth would explode from negative vibrations. Contrary to appearance, the earth is in an ascending cycle, and good will triumph. Please note that Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, was an astrologer, and he did the big cycles of time. He wrote the Holy Science, in which he described the epochs of time, and we have just entered an ascending cycle where things get better and better. And these are in 1,000-year increments, and we've just entered this phase. So if you want to do a study of the yugas, Y-U-G-A, yuga cycles, there are many astounding books written on the subject, as well as some YouTubes. I made one myself, so please educate yourself on the ascending ages of mankind. We have finished with the very destructive ages. So one problem is, since we are in a crossover of ages from the destructive Kali Yuga stage to the Bronze Age, there is a chance when ages switch, there is sometimes mass destruction. The thing is, we are in an ascending age, so one can only assume that the destruction that is predicted for about this time of mankind's history. That's what the Mayan calendar was about, and it started around then, around 2012. And it doesn't change on one day. It's happening right now. In the larger scheme of things, this particular time period is a drop. And it is an ending and a new beginning. How will that play out? Yogananda saw that, and so did Sri Yukteswar, his guru. And so there's much writings by really famed physicists and astrologers, and it's a way to learn about our future after the this period we're going through. So let me continue here. I hope that you do take the time to study the yugas. The world is sort of continuing. The world is sort of a living being with predetermined age. We are the children of this great Mother Earth. We suckle her breasts to partake of the food she produces. She also nurtures us with the thorough circulating currents of oxygen and sunshine and the water of her atmosphere. Just as we go through youth, middle age, old age, and death and reincarnation, so does Mother Earth. There is the young Mother Earth, the middle-aged Mother Earth, the old-age Mother Earth, and the Earth dies through partial dissolution, then reincarnates again to give human beings new life, new strength, a new habitat in which to work out their karma. Many times the Earth has undergone partial dissolution and reincarnation, but complete death will come to Earth only when it dissolves back into God. I will explain briefly about the cycles of Earth. The cycle consists of 24,000 years divided into 4 yugas or ages. 12,000 years of ascending through these yugas to increasing enlightenment, and then 12,000 years of descending through the yugas, increasing ignorance and materialism. Each of these half cycles are called Deva Yuga. The Earth has already passed through many complete cycles since the dawn of creation. The 4 ages of each Deva Yuga are Kali Yuga, the dark or material age, which we've just passed out of, Dvapara Yuga, the Bronze Age, which we are currently in, and Dvapara Yuga is the electrical or atomic age. Next is the Silver Yuga, the mental age, and the final enlightened age is the Satya Yuga, age of truth or enlightenment. We have descended from the Satya Yuga many times, and we've descended from that many times as we've just passed through the Dark Ages. Now we are on an ascent, which would mean that while we are basically about to destruct the earth again, we are on an upswing, so it won't be as bad of, say, Noah's flood. Now I'm going to be just Yogananda is describing the Dvaiparta Yuga, or the present cycle that we have just entered in. He continues, the earth has already passed through Kali Yuga, the materialistic age of 1200 years duration, according to the calculations of my guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. We are about 240 years into the Dvaiparta Yuga, the second age, which consists of 2,400 years. So we've just started the 2,400 years in ascension. Now this ascendancy is the electrical age, even though you may still seem very materialistic. If you think about it, you will see how man has progressed from comprehending only gross matter to understanding and harnessing the energy in matter. In this age, man will make great headway in the electrical or electromagnetic field of science. The Dvaiparta Yuga progresses. As it progresses, diseases will be treated and healed more by rays, vibratory energy which can reach the electronic factors of the atoms and building blocks of matter where gross chemicals cannot penetrate. After this war, you will see great surge of development in electrical science. Aviation will develop tremendously also. Travel will be much, much more by air. Planes are still viewed by doubt to many, just as trains were once looked upon in fears. But the planes are already taking over. And you must remember that this was all written in 1940. So Yogananda did have vision of the future. He could see the future. He also saw this time of around 2012 to 2030 as a big change for a complete crossover. Okay, so I'm going to continue. He continues, planes are already taking over, and the trains have become almost a thing of the past. Gradually, automobiles will be considered as carts. The trouble with the second age is that there is not enough security, because science plays the part of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Man uses science not only to create and do good, but to destroy as well. Therefore, scientific development is not safe. The present World War shows how technology of science is being used to destroy mankind. Out of the conflict, we will learn how to employ more scientific devices for human comfort. But unless we develop spiritual forces, we will also continue to use scientific knowledge to destroy. People will learn from this war the devastating consequences of misuse of technology. In the First World War and earlier times, it was considered chivalrous to fight. But the idea of chivalry has gone. In this war, no one wants to fight. After it's over, there will be so much fear of world devastation that if anybody tries to start a war, the rest of the world will reject it. Yogananda continues, I am telling you these things far ahead of my time. Armament is necessary now. A defensive plan is good, but it will not bring ultimate peace. So long as anyone will use brute force, there will always be someone else who will be more brutal. As Christ said truly, if you use the sword, you will perish by the sword. Brute force will be subdued only by making mankind misunderstand the eternal message of the Christ and the great ones. Only by spiritual force will wars be stopped. Ultimate peace will come by mutual agreement of all nations of the earth, and will have continued peace conferences and will scrap their weapons for instead help to the weapons that and help to destroy Earth's slums. Think how much better it would have been if all the time the nations and their leaders had gotten together to use the money they are spending in war to do away with the poverty of the world. Instead, even when war is over and one nation surrenders to the other, people will continue to live in fear and will be in poverty. These present armaments will be junked, and billions of dollars will be wasted. By prevailing in brute force, man is engaging in great folly. How long will it go on? How can this be changed? Only when nations have had their brains battered by war, they will begin to realize their short-sightedness. But I tell you, though it may not seem so, this war is being fought for the freedom of all downtrodden nations. The karmic forces are at work and give India and other foreign-dominated countries their independence. Spirituality must be kept strong in all nations. What is to be dreaded even more than this present war is the godlessness of it's a word I've never seen before, godlessness of, let's say, devastation. Never seen the word before. The godlessness of devastation is a great enemy. There is a story that when a lion and bear fought over the carcass of a stag, the bear was killed and the lion had a broken back and could not get to the deer. A fox who had been watching and waiting on the sidelines came forth and claimed the prey. Godless communism is waiting to spread. We must, above all, strive to keep spiritually strong in all lands. What prevents people from taking from others? The sharing of others with them, so that they too have what they need. And the knowledge that God is our Father, and we are all His children, brothers of one universal family. National patriotism is not enough. If the ideal of God and brotherhood is taken away, there will be no reason to live anymore. Who created this world? And who created us? We know that there is a God. Let nothing take away that idea. The doctrine of belief in God is the only one that will ultimately bring peace on earth. No other ideology will be able to do so. So long as you live in any country, you must be loyal to it. We must not allow subversive elements into this country. Treachery, I think, is the most terrible of all crimes, the most dreadful of all evils in this world. Never be treacherous to your family, your neighbors, or your friends, and never be treacherous to your country. Those who cannot be faithful to their country cannot be faithful to God. Remember the story of the bat. When the birds and the beasts were fighting, the bat sided first with one, then the other, depending on who was winning at the time. After a truce was signed by the birds and the beasts, meaning ferocious animals, both made a resolution: let's destroy the bat. So remember, it is of utmost importance to be loyal to your country. If you don't like its ideals, give it your blessings and go somewhere else. There is too much lack of patriotism in this country. I don't mean that you should love America with the kind of patriotism that tries to destroy other nations. Rather, love America and her ideals so that in turn love the whole world. Remember that you are living in America for just a little while. In other incarnation, you have lived in other countries. If everyone first loves his own country and then expands that love to include other countries as his own, there will be no more wars. So never tolerate anyone who is not a true patriot. No one has the right to live in this country who does not love it. It is wrong to bite the hand that feeds you. I would rather that people beat up, I would rather that people beat me or kill me than to be treacherous to me. Treachery I abhor. I have never betrayed anyone. I love all. I have given to all. I have given sincerely. There is no one that can stand before me and truthfully say I've been treacherous. When I give my love, I give it wholeheartedly. That doesn't mean that I am not aware of those who are insincere with me. Before the searchlight of divine love, everything is revealed. So, dear ones, never be treacherous to anyone. And whenever you are treacherous and you see treachery, correct that person and refuse to him cooperation with or support his wrongdoing. God knows who is wrong and who is right. Let us all be united in everything that is noble. Uphold the ideals of this country. If ever aggressive war came to destroy this country and America needed my help, I would give it for the love of the people and to defend a nation whose land I love. We should do our part to protect America and those we love, but at the same time, we must not allow ourselves to be filled with hatred. Never has the world needed love so much as now. Love will be a potent factor in eradicating war. Let us all resolve that no matter what happens, we will make God the pole star of our love, and that we will send that love to all mentally and pray with me. Heavenly Father, Thou art love. I am made in Thine image. I am a sphere of love. I expand this sphere to include all mankind within the kingdom of my love. This war will not be the war to end all wars. Whoever wins and uses that power to penalize other nations, whose nations will try to strike back with greater force someday. Man's destructive potential has grown much greater than his spiritual power. There will be no safety in the electrical age. The Bronze and the Dvapara Yuga age are of the same reference. Electronical age, Dvapara Yuga are the same, one and the same. The Dvapara Yuga is described as an age of electrical or electronic age where we can use powers much greater, the type of powers that we have in the 22nd century. And it's also referred to as the Bronze Age. Yogananda continues, methods of war on a greater and greater scale will come. So thank God that the Dvapara Yuga, the electrical age, is only 2,400 years. I'll give you a moment to laugh. It's like we only have 2,000 more years to go. Next will come the Treta Yuga age, a very nice age. It is the Silver Age, the third era or age of 3,600 years in duration. It is the mental age, where most people will use mind power. The power of the mind will be much more highly developed than it is now. To a great extent, everything will be accomplished by that power. There will be an increase of wisdom. Therefore, more safety in that age. People will make a stronger effort to use peaceful means for settling their problems. There will be, yes, less use of electricity and growing use of the power of the mind. There will be an increase of wisdom. People will make stronger effort by peaceful means. There will be less of electricity and growing use of the power of the mind. This is not to say everyone will be able to know others' minds, but just as there are powerful radios that can time in even weak, tune in even weak stations, the weak radios can pick up only strong stations. So some people will have stronger mental powers than others in the age of the mind. In that mental age, the Silver Age, the power of the mind will be able to know our fellow beings better, so that it will be difficult for anyone to be wicked. There will be very little hypocrisy, because people are hypocritical only when they think others do not know their real feelings. As a result of greater understanding, humanity will learn to live more peacefully with one another. Mind power will be used for healing as food for the body. Then comes the Satya Yuga. After the third age will come the Satya Yuga, or golden age, the age of truth, when the mind of man will be able to comprehend all mysteries of creation and to live in communion with God. People of this age will find no barrier between the material world and the astral heaven. They will be able to enter the astral world and commune with those souls that have gone on to that sphere. The ascending Satya Yuga will last for 4,800 years. Many fully evolved souls will find liberation in that yuga more than any other of the ages. But even the end of Satya Yuga will not signal the end of the world. The cycle will be continuous, descending and reascending through all of the four ages again and again. Intermediately, cataclysms will occur, in which the world will die and then begin anew as it continues a cycle, life and death, and resurrection. The earth was created to bring souls into their divine destiny. It is carrying a heavy burden until all our work is done, until all our souls evolve back to God. This earth will never totally dissolve. It is only when God no longer needs it for the evolution of souls that the world will be no more. When will come the real end of the world? So don't be afraid that our earth will tumble into the oven of time, which is so hot, and all things will melt and vaporize in just a few seconds. The ultimate end of the world is far, far off, and we have a lot to do before that time comes. Please note that in this very, very future time of the end, all souls will have evolved off the earth. We just won't be here anymore. Yogananda continues, rise above the age in which you are born. You do not have to wait for the end of the world in order to be free. There is another way. Rise above the age in which you are born. The material age, in the material age, the majority of mankind is materially minded. But you also find those who are living ahead of their times, Christ-like souls, in the mental and electrical ages. You will find predominant the mentalities characteristic of those yugas. At the time, there are other mentalities that some are highly evolved and others not yet highly evolved. In this electrical age, you can find people who are still living in the Stone Age. There is always balance. Some who are living ahead and some who are living behind in a civilization that is long gone. Through repeated incarnations, those of lesser development will gradually advance until they express the mentality of the age in which they reincarnate, and eventually the characteristics and qualities of higher ages yet to come. The cycles of this world are like seesaw going up and down. When we hasten our evolution through right living and spiritual techniques such as yoga, especially Kriya Yoga, we live ahead of our time and can find freedom in God within this our only a few lifetimes. The world ends for us when our minds are detached. Another way we experience the end of the world in the detachment that is felt when we sleep. In dreams, in losing one's mind, and in death, these conditions are forced upon us, so it seems. that the experience of the end of the world is necessary for us to continue. The purpose is to teach us to the delusion of nature of the world and the true nature of self, the soul. The soul comes to earth and becomes entangled in the mesh of delusion, known as Maya. Through the suffering that comes to us, then, the Lord wants us to see that the world is not perfect. In this way, He helps us break our attachment to it, or addiction to Maya. God is trying to make us realize, through non-identification with it, how delusive our existence here is. The more I saw of the world and its defects, the greater became my determination to know God. The world ends for us when we are free from desires. In a metaphysical sense, the end of all earthly desires is the end of the world. For your own happiness, you must strive to live free of worldly desires. If there is anything you can't do without, you still have a terrible lesson to learn. Imagine yourself taken away from this earth with all of your desires unfulfilled. They are like cankers in your soul, perhaps cancers in your soul. You would have to return here many times, enduring the heartaches and disappointments again and again, curing yourself of those desires. The world ends for us when we are free from desires. I will continue with this article from the East-West magazine and his lecture in 1940. You will see how Yogananda could see the current times that we are living through, and the rest of his talk and his article can help us all get through and evolve to where Yogananda was guiding us to, love of God. His great sage, Maya Moya Ma, the female yogi of Yogananda's time, she always said, you are either walking towards God or away from God. Let her thoughts reign true to you. I bid you adieu. More to come with Yogananda's writings from the East-West magazine.